We appreciate you tuning in today. We've got a good show for you. We've got an interview with Judge Michael Collins with the judicial system. We've got an interview with Mr. Michael HERMAN, who's with Riverview Regional, talking about the hospital's response to the pandemic and a few other things as well. We talked with Mr. Digger Poindexter about the Carthage Rotary Club and some of the things that they do in the community and how long they've been here. And then we have Chris HICKS and Rachel Petty, who has just joined them, and he'll be telling you about that. So we hope you enjoy our show. Well, we want to thank Judge Michael Collins for coming and being with us today. And Judge Collins, in particular, we are here to talk about programs that you have been basically running since you've been the judge here. And so appreciate you coming by, first of all.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, and wanted to talk about the recovery court. I think that is something that we're seeing positive things happening in Smith County because of it. And so tell us about Recovery Court.
Sure. Recovery Court started about 7 years ago. As I was campaigning, I came across the director of the Felony Recovery Court, and we got to talking, and there was no misdemeanor recovery court in our district. And the thought with Recovery Court is it's better taxpayer money to spend on nonviolent offenders who are in jail as related to addiction issues. It's better taxpayer money to spend than to just incarcerate them. So if the whole premise is we take people that have not committed crimes against other people or against property. Most of their crimes are drug seeking or drug related, and we ask them if they're interested. We're not going to make anybody be in our program, but everybody who's willing to go through the extra steps, the extra supervision, the extra things that we require, we'll get them out of jail, we'll get them treatment, we'll get them help. And the proof shows that it's a whole lot more effective at preventing rearrest or recidivism. It's about 4 times more effective. So it's better taxpayer money to spend. It frees up spots in our jail. And the reason that's important is now we could reserve those spots for violent offenders. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, the people that we have that graduate our program, they're often ones that are helping others find their way out of addiction. We've got several of our latest graduates are doing great things, especially in the recovery community.
Okay, well now, is this unusual for Smith County, or are there other drug recovery courts? Is this modeled after one, or kind of tell me the genesis of this? Well,
Judge J.O. Bond, several years ago, saw this, the addiction wave and how that was really affecting crime and taxpayer dollars and filling up the jails, and he kind of experimented with a felony recovery court. That model, you have to have a felony, you have to be in jail, revoked to serve, and it's proved effective. We've just taken some new data and taken that a step further and say, well, let's not just wait till they're getting felonies. Well, heck, let's not even wait till they're stuck in jail. Let's see if we could get them earlier in the process, and by doing that, we're able to help a wider swath of people.
Okay. Now, there's another program that's closely related to the Recovery Court, which is called Bridging the Gap. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Bridging the Gap goes on this premise. We've only got so much taxpayer dollars to affect the criminal justice system. So when I started, I thought, how can I elicit help from the community? And I tried to look around and see people that were passionate about helping. Well, I saw pastors. You know, pastors were trying all kinds of different outreaches for food or for clothing or for, you know, just a bunch of different ways. So the first thing I did after I was elected is I called a meeting. I invited every pastor or a representative from every church in the county. We probably had 50 or 60 folks that night that came to the meeting. And I told them, I'm not sure why we're supposed to be here. I'm not even sure what we're supposed to do, but you're men of God, women of God. Why don't y'all pray about it, think about it, and let's come up with something. And from that grew this Bridging the Gap program. And all it is it's a community-led, pastor-led program. We invite them into it's public anyway, but we invite them into the courthouse. And all they're doing is they're with a welcoming arm, reaching out a hand to people, shaking their hands, not looking down on them, not beating them up, They're just taking them where they're at and saying, what can I do for you? What can I help you with? You know, oh, by the way, here's the clerk's office. Here's the jail. Here's the courtroom you're supposed to go in. Here's where probation is. Would you like some breakfast? You know, is there something I could do for you? And that Bridging the Gap program has prevented more and more and more people from coming into the justice system. It's got people involved with good mentors, good peer partners with churches. And heck, people are going to that program and never coming back to court, which is what we desire, and it's at no cost to the taxpayers.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful program. Now, there's a grant program that
Sure.
you have that's going. Want to talk about that?
Yes, actually, Mayor Dennis, Carthage City Mayor Dennis, had applied for a grant, and some things kind of fell through with that right before Mayor Smith was elected. And he asked me, would you like to take it over? Or would you like to be a part of it? I went and talked to Mayor Smith, we talked to the county, we talked to the city, I talked to Mayor Mason, and ended up we got $250,000 from the Department of Justice, and they didn't really direct what we did with it. They only directed that we had attempted outcomes. So from that, we brainstormed with a lot of people who are highly intelligent and motivated to help people, and we came up with this idea to prevent at-risk youth from suffering negative social outcomes such as dropout, pregnancy, disease, jail, all kinds of things, all the negative social outcomes. And we're using a new kind of statistical data called adverse childhood experiences. What that is it kind of uses what we know as common sense, and that is children who grow up in rough situations, they have a harder way to go in life. Well, that's not only common sense, but that's reduced to statistical data that proves it, it bears it out. So what we did is we focused on the areas, the addresses that had the highest incidence of what we believe to be high adverse childhood experience children. And we have two people, Johnny Ray Brown, Samantha Lee Ramsey. They get involved with these children's lives, and then they do what the data tells us is effective. It's called trust-based relational intervention. And again, that's kind of a fancy word to say what common sense is. They have consistent, loving, educated mentors in their life, somebody they could turn to when they're come across all these negative social things that many of us come across. So that's a great program. Again, we're taking it one step further. We're taking federal dollars, grant dollars, and we're trying to prevent children from struggling in schools, from getting arrested, from getting addicted, from getting on welfare, from having early pregnancies and those things. So it's a wonderful program.
Well, and it does sound like a wonderful program, and that is actually a new one for us. An older program that I feel is very effective is the community service program.
Yes.
And talk about that a little bit.
Well, I went and talked to Mayor Nesbitt when he was the mayor, and I said, I've got an idea. The people we see on probation, often they're sitting around doing nothing. They say they can't find jobs. I don't know if they can, I don't know if they can't, but they say they can't. They're sitting around doing nothing, and sitting around doing nothing just produces more problems. So the idea was there. I went and talked to the mayor. He went and talked to the Budget and Finance Committee. I ended up spending some of my dollars out of a discretionary fund, and maybe some of it comes from the county. I've not looked at that budget in just a little bit, so I'm not exactly sure. But what we do is we pay somebody. We ended up hiring Junior Nesbitt, and he is the community service coordinator. Instead of ordering community service in court and then people just going out, whether they're doing it or not, who knows. Now that's all being focused and ran through Mr. Junior Nesbitt, and the county's getting thousands upon thousands of community service hours given back. Now, here's the key with that. Our encouragement is everybody to get a job and be productive and support yourself. So if you're working, often you don't even have to do the community service. It's only as an alternative if you're not working. So then we ran into many people saying, well, I can't find jobs. Well, our probation department, they went above and beyond, and they came up with about 50 companies in 7 counties that will help you get a job. They don't care if you've got a record, misdemeanor felony, if you've got addiction issues, if you're going through counseling, heck, if you got court dates. We had about 50 companies in 7 counties that would work with us if somebody would show up and pass a drug test and just work. So we removed the barrier of employment by giving them employment, and if they say they still can't get a job, then heck, you do community service and you give back to the community. Now, we do have people who are on disability or have other preventative things that prevent them from jobs. We don't require them. But that's that program. I went to Mayor Nesbitt, and he saw the benefit. We pay one person, and we get the hours of 50 people a week. And heck, they've done work on the roadsides picking up trash, over at the ballparks, at the school system, at the Defeated Elementary. There's rocks all along the front there, big shot rocks. They had to hand place those, and really nobody wanted to do that. But our community service people came up there and they laid them all down. They cleared off their back track. So it's just several programs like that. Junior does a great job of coordinating. Not only that, while he's doing it, he's mentoring the people as they go, especially the young people. He says he's got young people that don't know how to start a weed eater. They've got young people that don't understand, gas and oil mix goes in some weed eater. So he's teaching life lessons. And what's strange is the adults, they get finished or they get a job, which is great. That's what we want. But the juveniles, we've got them calling after they've completed their community service hours, and they're asking, hey, can we still come back and do stuff? It made us feel good to go clean up the roadways or go help at the ballpark. So it's been a great program. I appreciate Mayor Nesbitt allowing us to start that, and then Mayor Mason and the County Commission to allow us to keep that going. The county's got a great benefit out of all four of those programs.
Yeah, well, in community service, I know years ago, Junior and I talked, and we talked about trying to do something like that, and so that's been in his heart for a long time.
Very long time, yes, sir.
And I would add, we've used them around here and on different projects, and we've seen some of those young people that have come because they had to, and then come back because they wanted to, and on several of our projects. So I'm really impressed with the fact that they want to learn and want to better themselves, and I think that's a wonderful thing. If you can give somebody, a youth or an adult, some self-esteem, you've really helped them.
A purpose, yeah. And it's been a blessing. The municipalities, Carthage City, Smith County, they've really helped and bought in. Heck, we've had some people that went and did community service for Smith County who've got hired by the county. We've had people who've done community service for Carthage City who they've hired them on full time. So, everything, all these programs are looking to make individuals be productive and accountable citizens, not dependent on the jail, the courts, or the government, but to be independent and productive, and that's what we're trying to do.
Well, I'm jumping back to the original subject, but I know 4 personally that have graduated from the recovery court that are involved in very important things here in the county.
Absolutely.
And been through these programs. So, well, Judge Collins, thank you for coming by. Unless you've got something to add, that was what I wanted to do, is go through the programs that we had going here in the county and just kind of give people an overview. Sure.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. My thought was, when I took over as judge, is I've got an 8-year term. I'm going to try some things to help people, and if they don't work, in 8 years, we'll try something else. We're doing 4 things right now. I think they're all benefiting the county. But heck, if anybody in the county knows of any other ideas or you want to try anything else, let me know. We'll come up with, see if we can get a grant or funding for it. And if it works, we'll stick with it and do it. Anything to help people become more productive and accountable as a citizenship, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, good common sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Billy Woodard. I'm the Executive Director of the Smith County Chamber of Commerce, and we have a guest with us here today, Mr. Michael Herman. Michael, would you introduce yourself to the folks?
Absolutely. Again, my name is Mike Herman. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Riverview Regional Medical Center. I've been here for just over 4 years now. Love this community, love this hospital, and excited to get to spend some time with you today, Mr. Woodard.
Well, thank you for coming. We're going to talk to you about 3 or 4 things today. Number 1, healthcare in the region. Number 2, healthcare specifically in Smith County and specifically related to Riverview Regional. Then thirdly, the COVID-19 pandemic that we're going through right now and our response to that. And then we'll follow up with maybe some recommendations that we would have for you folks out there that are going through this, as we all are. And first thing I'm going to talk about Michael, you may want to address this. We in Smith County are very blessed to have Riverview Regional here with us. Many of our surrounding counties do not have hospital facilities or even medical facilities. Would you comment on that? Because I know you'd have a better idea than I do.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. Hospitals in rural America are struggling right now. And several hospitals have closed in our state, and hundreds have closed across the country over the last 5-10 years. So we are fortunate within Smith County to have a very strong hospital. Financially, we are viable, and we are part of LifePoint Health, which owns 88 hospitals across the country. And with that comes resources and expertise that standalone hospitals in small communities just don't receive. And the backbone of the great care we provide is from our physicians, from our local physicians, our primary care physicians, to our surgeons that are here local, and then we have specialists that come from Cookeville, that come from Nashville, to help support this community in special care needs also. So as a small community hospital, we provide a lot more services than most community hospitals. We have a very busy orthopedic surgeon who is here all throughout the week providing care to our community. We have a general surgeon providing care to our community. Doing OB in a small community hospital is unique in this day and age. And we have a very strong OB program and a growing OB program. Our births year over year have been continuing to grow. We have a great new physician, Dr. Burgess, who is doing wonderful in the OB portion of our hospital, and she's learning under Dr. Rutherford, who's been here forever, and it has generational knowledge on our community, our hospital, and clinical care that is top-notch.
Right. Well, now you kind of segued into what was going on here, but getting back to the region, if you look at the region, I guess Putnam County, there's another regional hospital there, and then of course in Wilson County, which touches us. Mm-hmm. And so if there is something that gets to a level that you feel you would rather someone, how do you decide who stays and who goes, or is that a valid question?
It's always a valid question because there's some things that we just can't do because of our size. My recommendation globally is if you're in an emergency situation, come visit our ER. We can stabilize you. We have a physician there 24/7 who is ready, willing, and able to assess you in your emergency and get you to the right location. So if you're having a heart attack and you need an intervention, we can help facilitate that as quickly as possible, but we'll also stabilize you more quickly than driving past our hospital to get to an interventional site.
Okay, say a person gets in trouble some way, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. Of course, we have a local EMS that work very closely with you. Yep. Many times they will take a person to another hospital if they request, but most of the time, I think if there's something going on in the county, they bring them to you guys. And then you do exactly what you said. You stabilize them and decide if you can work with them or there. I personally have had experience with this, mm-hmm. and with me and my wife, and I've always appreciated the fact that my wife was in a pretty serious situation a few years back, and we came into Riverview Regional, and the doctor came in and he says, this is something that needs to be handled at a surgical center more than what we have here, and then they gave us the choices.
Right.
And then, of course, stabilized, sent there, and her outcome was great. I presume that there's a lot of stories like that.
Absolutely, and we have a great relationship with EMS. Our EMS staff are the experts out in the field on what's going on with our patients. So you are absolutely right. You know, they, outside of patient preference, they generally come to us so we can get that patient treatment as quickly as possible, get them stabilized, and get them to the right location of care if it's not with us.
Okay, in the days gone by, I'll use it that way, people used to come and stay at the hospital quite a bit. It seems to be more of an outpatient thing now, and people not staying at the hospital anymore. Is that the case? Have I described it pretty close?
Yeah, absolutely. There used to be a day when you came into the hospital and rested for several days before you had surgery. That has changed globally. Every hospital in the country is reducing your length of stay in the hospital to get you healthy, but to get you in your home environment to heal. There is something that is intangible in allowing you to be home in your own bed with your family when it's clinically safe. And we've discovered over the years that reducing the amount of time in the hospital and getting a patient home to their home environment when it's clinically appropriate actually accelerates some of the healing processes.
Right. And of course, we're going to talk about COVID-19 and the pandemic we're in a little bit later. And that's why you and I are wearing the mask. You made a comment about the mask. You said if it's important to me and I'm requiring my staff to do it, then I need to set the example, and that obviously is why you have the mask on during the interview.
Absolutely.
And we're going to get into that a little bit later.
Okay.
We talked about Riverview and LifePoint. What are some of the services that you offer in conjunction? I know there are several nurse practitioners and doctors here in the area.
Yep.
And you guys work with them. How is that coordinated? How does that work?
It's our local physicians. We have a mix of people who have been employed by the hospital, and they're employees of the hospital, and then we have some independent physicians within the community. We have mid-levels that help with primary care, and then we've got our physicians that also are primary care focused physicians. So we have a good complement across both Carthage and Gordonsville of providers, and then we have a few specialists who come from outside the region to support our area. So specifically cardiology, we have a very strong cardiology presence in our specialty clinic. Along with nephrology, we have a very, very good nephrologist who comes there with regularity, an endocrinologist, which that's unique in our environment to have endocrinology in our community. That's a specialty that doesn't have a lot of providers, and the fact that we have one that comes here every other week is representative of how this community is growing and how the health of our community is important to our organization, that we've been able to encourage those physicians to come and spend time with us to help our community out.
Okay, well, the synergy between you and all these providers, they of course feed to you, and they use hospital services.
Absolutely.
Back and forth. I know a lot of the tests, I go to a particular practitioner here, and I know a lot of the testing is done there at the hospital, and the results come back. So I realize they use that. Is there anything that I haven't asked about that we need to, like physical therapy can be done locally? You have a physical therapy department. I know I've used it. Is there anything I'm missing about the particular Riverview Regional that we need to mention?
Absolutely. So to touch on physical therapy, we have lymphedema therapist, we have a pelvic floor therapist certified. We anticipate to be certified in dry needling soon. So to your point, there's a ton going on at Riverview that our community may not be aware of. One service that we haven't touched on is our Jerry Psych service. And that's for our elderly population who is having behavioral challenges. And generally speaking, sometimes meds start interacting with our geriatric population, and their behaviors start getting out of whack a little bit. If it's very acute, we can bring them as an inpatient and get their meds lined up relatively quickly. If it's not that serious, we have an outpatient program called Senior Life Solutions that is focused on our geriatric population, on depressed and anxiety patients, or people experiencing anxiety. And I've heard great stories of our geriatric population, individuals going from barely engaged in life to living life to its fullest with the outpatient program and the therapy. That started in June, and I'm very excited that we get to provide that service locally. The psychiatrist is from Vanderbilt. He does a wonderful job. Our therapists are well trained, and the programs run really, really well. So that will be an added service that started this past month that I feel will improve the health of our community, which is our mission.
Exactly. I know at one time you guys were doing sleep studies. Is that still or is that moved to one of your other sites?
That unfortunately that has moved to Sumner, and that program and that service has gone to a home-based model primarily. Insurance companies like the initial sleep study to be home-based, and then if there's a significant need, do on-site at the hospital. When I was looking at the service, it wasn't utilized a ton here locally, and that's the space I'm using for the Senior Life Solutions program.
Okay, and you know, that you bring up a good point that we haven't touched on and we need to address. There are a lot of things that are being done home-based, and a lot of things that are happening at a person's home that would not have been considered just a few decades ago or a few years ago. And that, of course, is one of them. And that's because of the monitoring you can do now with electronics and stuff. Yeah. I know the EMS trucks, they're actually in touch with a doctor if they need to be. On the EMS.
A good example there is they'll transmit an EKG to the ER before they arrive in the ER. So technology is another reason why we're spending less time in the hospital, doing more at home, and doing more on an outpatient basis, because the technology continues to get better and better. And COVID-19 has accelerated telemedicine. We are probably 2 years ahead of where we would be without COVID-19, because telemedicine has proved to be an effective way to treat patients and maintain social distance, maintain isolation, maintain safety from transmitting COVID-19. So it's been that's a silver lining of the last few months.
Okay, well, get to one basic thing that affects a lot of people around here, and then we'll move on to the COVID-19. How is your visitors policy and things like that at the hospital now under this general climate? Right.
Unfortunately, we've had to limit visitation for the safety of our employees and patients. It's a very difficult decision to make, because on one hand, we fully recognize how having your family present with you while you're receiving care is incredibly important. But unfortunately, in our present situation with PPE supplies being limited and the transmission of this disease being so pervasive, we have limited our visitors to certain scenarios. So we recognize end-of-life scenarios will obviously allow visitors for end-of-life. Outpatient procedures where the patient needs somebody to help get them home, get them out of the hospital, that's completely appropriate. And then we have some exceptions on down the road for a few other areas, but we are limiting visitors because to reduce the number of people who are coming in and through our hospital.
So a person needs to have a very valid and compelling reason to even come to the hospital right now. Whereas before, it was just basically you could walk in and
Absolutely. We used to have several community members a day come into our cafeteria to eat lunch. because it was easy, convenient, and cheap. And unfortunately, we've had to eliminate that to the same point of just reducing the number of people coming through.
Right. I've ate lunch there several times. By the way, good food too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, talking about COVID-19 and the response here in the county, one of the things that prompted me to even give you the call about talking about this, the Smith County Coronavirus Task Force, which Dr. Roger Duke is heading up for the mayor, him and Mayor Mason. They shared some statistics with us, and in a 28-day period, we were just right on the threshold line, which it means that you're doing okay. You got some cases, but you're doing okay. Currently, the past 28 days, we've seen spikes on different days. It comes down, it spikes, and then here is one spike that it took us up to where we are in the almost 200 range, and at this airing, it may be more than that. Right. It seems to me that COVID-19 is going to be with us for a while. What do you think should be our response for this?
Yes, COVID-19 is definitely going to be with us for a while. And Smith County did a very good job in the initial phase of limiting the transmission of this disease. The graph you're referring to absolutely demonstrates how we as a community protected each other very well. Unfortunately, we can only shut down our economy and shut down our daily habits and behaviors for only so long. What the graph represents now is getting back to normal life and the impact of the disease spreading. So yes, it will be with us. My biggest encouragement is for our community to wear masks when they're out and about. That has proven, HHS has proven that reduces transmission. We're also, since the beginning, we're doing more testing, and we have the availability of testing has gone significantly up. We are learning that 30 to 50% of the people who test positive are asymptomatic or have no symptoms, and so there's a group in those numbers in that graph that represent people who don't feel bad. And unfortunately, when you don't feel bad, you don't wear a mask, you interact with people as you normally do, and could inadvertently transmit the disease. So that's what we're seeing now. When I talk to my peers and listen to my physicians, we think the fall could see another surge up and see continued spread of the virus. And so that's a little concerning, but at the same time, that gives us more time to learn how to treat the disease, more time to produce PPE to keep ourselves safe. And the goal at the beginning was to flatten the curve. I think the term everybody heard was flatten the curve, and we definitely did that at the beginning, and we're coming up now, and we're pushing up against the healthcare's capacity, particularly in the urban areas. The bigger hospitals are starting to push against their capacity for treating COVID patients. But we're barely keeping our eyes above water right now. And as long as we continue to keep our eyes above water, we'll survive the short-term future of COVID. So.
Okay, well, the virus itself, I know if you watch the news, they basically are saying it's probably not going to go away. It's going to be with us for a while. Even if we get a vaccine, it'll help us control it, but it's probably here to stay. Eradication is a dream, but maybe just that. Right. As far as here locally, like you say, we've flattened the curve, and now we're starting to see it come up.
Yes.
In the fall, why do you feel like that? Is it because people will be indoors more, or is there another reason?
People indoors more. It's a theory at this point is that it'll follow some of the behaviors of the flu, as far as being more prevalent in the fall, winter, springtime. And then also it's complicated by getting back to school, getting back to fall sporting events, and all the social interaction that happens with those items that we're all looking forward to. We all miss school, we all miss football, we all miss sporting activities. And so the combination of the change in weather and then increasing in getting back to whatever our new normal is why I think the fall we'll see another uptick in the curve.
Okay, well, on the back of this flyer that we produced, it shows why wear a mask, and it's got two people without it, one healthy, one infected, and it says little protection. Then you have one wearing a mask, one not that's healthy, and it says some protection. And then it has both of them wearing a mask, one healthy, one infected, and it says better protection. And then if they're both wearing a mask and 6 feet apart, it's the best protection that you can have. It's unfortunate that in some areas the wearing of the mask has been politicized, and sometimes some even other reasons that people would use for either wearing or not wearing a mask, but it's just simply a scientific thing. This is a respiratory virus.
Right.
And if you're breathing in that heavy breath that you've got that's laden with the water is kept in the mask, it doesn't get out to infect another person. It's as simple as that. Am I correct?
You are correct. You said it perfect. And that's why throughout our conversation, I've been talking about the importance of wearing a mask. And that goes for every aspect of life. It goes for when you're out in the grocery store and doing life. Wearing a mask for now, at this point in time, is the right thing to do.
Okay, and I noticed, I don't know at the time of the airing or when you watch this video, but Walmart, who is a chamber member, by the way, and Riverview Regional, thank you for being a chamber member.
Welcome.
They are actually requiring a mask if you come in the store.
Yep.
And I think that we're going to see more and more of that as time goes on, as places are going to require that you have a mask on before you come in. And that is obviously to try and ramp down the infection and the spread.
Yep.
Lastly, how is our capacity at our local hospital? Are we in good shape right at the moment? Are we prepared for more cases?
Absolutely. So great question. So yes, we do have capacity at our hospital. As I talked about being part of LifePoint Health, I have 3 sister hospitals that range from Gallatin to Livingston. Right now, my sister hospital in Gallatin, we are trying to isolate all active COVID patients there to keep our hospital operating as usual, to the best of our ability for caring for our patients. So yes, we have capacity. Yes, we are prepared to care for COVID positive patients. So we have our air machines that suck the air out of the building because this is airborne. So if a patient's in a specific room, all the air in that room gets pulled out of the building, and so it doesn't go into another patient's room or go where our staff are located. Your experience at the hospital will be different. As we discussed, visitation is a little bit different. Everybody wearing a mask will be different. As a patient, you may not see your provider's face like you used to. That's a struggle also. So I've joked that I don't hear as well with my mask on. So we're dealing with all those challenges that come with this pace, with this disease. Everybody who comes into our organization is getting screened for symptoms, for temperature, and patients who are having surgery are getting tested for COVID pre-surgery, because during surgery you aerosolize that disease a lot, and so to protect our staff and the patient, we're testing before surgery. And so we have a lot of things in place. Our infection control department and our EBS department are working hand in hand to make sure we clean and sterilize our hospital for everybody, just like we always have, and to make sure that it's a safe and healthy environment for our patients, our staff, and ultimately our community.
Okay, one last thing. I understand that a lot of people are going to face shields for the very reason that you said.
Yes.
Some folks, they've got to see your lips so that they can understand what you're saying, and a lot of people are going to face shields.
Yes.
I am told that those are as effective as the mask. Is that
So we're
correct?
using both. So in certain areas where we know we're dealing with positive patients, we're using both the face shield to protect your eyes and mask to protect inhalation. Those face shields are open at the bottom, and you can suck in air that has the disease in it, and that's in the hospital environment. So your eyes. The scientists are learning that ultimately your eyes can start absorbing some of the moisture in the air that you were discussing, and you can contract the virus that way. So that's why you're going to see more of our staff in the hospital wearing face shields. That's partly why you see the plexiglass up everywhere, is it does a combination of the mask and the face shield from an eye protection side. No matter what, it's still better than nothing. But I would encourage, if you're that concerned and you have the goggles or eye protection, wearing both eye protection and the mask further protects an individual.
okay? And I know I keep saying one last thing, but I just thought of this. Right now, testing is sometimes a 2-day to 2-week
Right.
process to get the results. I know there are folks, in fact, there is an industrial customer that is looking to move to Smith County, and they're in the process of developing something along this line. But is there testing that you see that's out there available that can get these results to us quicker than they are now?
Yes, the technology is out there to get it back to us in hours, but the capacity of those machines isn't quite there. And there is some research getting done that has not been FDA approved to get it down to a saliva test versus the nose test. So testing will get better, will get quicker. I do believe it'll get to the point where we are for food tests, to where you can take it in the office and know immediately. It'll get there. It's just time letting the technology develop and validate that it's accurate.
Okay, and that right there alone would be a big factor in stemming the spread of this, would it not?
Absolutely, because then you know for a fact if you're positive or negative.
Right. I have a friend that had quarantined himself for 10 days and it came back negative.
Right.
And he was disappointed, but then he was glad, he didn't have it too. So,
Absolutely.
okay. Is there anything we're missing that we need to tell people out there in regard to this pandemic?
One last thing, for a little bit there, it became evident that our communities nationwide were delaying care to help flatten the curve and help isolate and those kinds of things. And now we're seeing that don't delay your care just because of the concern of COVID. We all still need our regular PCP visits, our wellness checks. That toothache that's been bothering you, going to the dentist is completely appropriate. Getting your cleanings done is completely appropriate. Getting your mammographies done, those kinds of things. I don't want your health to suffer on one side to protect you from interacting with folks and potentially catching COVID-19. We did see that, and doing it temporarily for a couple months is absolutely understandable. But now we're at that point where don't delay care just because you're concerned about COVID-19.
Okay. Well, Michael, thank you very much for coming by.
No problem. I appreciate the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a special report from the Smith County Chamber of Commerce. We hope that you will give us a call or give Riverview Regional a call if you've got any questions about anything we've discussed here today. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Appreciate your time.
We're here with Mr. Digger Poindexter, and you prefer to be called Digger, I believe that's
Yes,
correct.
Yes,
And we've been friends for several years now, and one of the things that we are associated with is Rotary Club. And I asked Digger if he would to come and talk to us a little bit about Rotary Club. And I'm going to just ask you a few questions. And folks, the reason we want to talk about Rotary Club, and there are other civic organizations out there, and I'll just add at the front of this, if you're a member of a civic organization in Smith County and you want to talk about your organization, we would love to have you come on our program and make a record of what you folks do here in the community. And this is just one of several interviews that we're going to do about this for our chamber show. But Digger, how long have you been a Rotarian?
around 28 years, baby.
28 years. So you pretty well, you kind of know about the club, and you've seen a lot of folks that have moved in and moved out, and a lot of people. The club is a pretty good place for somebody if they want to kind of learn the community, would you say?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
Plus, they can do some service work and help some folks.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of the members is business people, retired business people, so you can learn a lot from any fellow members.
Right. Well, now, there's a lot of things that Rotary does. One thing that comes to mind is with the Imagination Library. You want to talk about that just for a second?
I think we're the largest donor in Smith County for the Imagination Library, and we do a golf tournament every year, and then big portion of funds that goes to Imagination Library. Of course, with the COVID thing this year, we weren't able to have the golf tournament, but Rogers Group stepped up and made a large donation.
Yeah, and we need to give them, the folks over at Rogers Group, which is just over near the interstate, they are really fine folks, and they believe in what Imagination Library is doing, and so they helped out this year because we couldn't do the golf tournament.
Yeah, that's right.
But Imagination Library, if I know Rotary's part is to support it financially, but basically a book from birth until you start school.
I believe that's right.
And it's free to anybody. So if you're out there and you have a child in that age category or one that may be on the way, they can go to the library and sign up, or I don't know if there's any other place really to sign up.
I think that's it, but even at a young age, the parents can get the books and read to the kids.
Yeah, exactly. And I know the first book is the Little Engine That Could, because that's Dolly's favorite. And the last book, I love this because we signed our little girl up for it. The last book is Look Out Kindergarten, Here I Come.
That's neat.
Anyway, Imagination Library, Rotary does that. They also do a lot of drives, and you're involved in the kids.
Yeah, but we also we do 2 high school scholarships for both high school, Carthage and Gornville both, so we're in Smith County and Gornville. So that's something we do every year. And of course, support of that, we do 2 pancake breakfasts. We do one here in Carthage for the Smith County High School, and one in Gornville for the Gornville High School. So
and they're both very well attended.
And they're both well attended, the community support, and you have to have that when you're a club and you do things in the community, which takes a lot of finances. You got to have money to do that, and so you have fundraisers to do that.
And we've been doing those scholarships as long as I can remember.
As long as I've been in the club, I'm sure probably further back than that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay, now another thing is the senior dinner, we usually put that on, senior dinner, and we usually would do cooking for the kids' Central Bash, and that's the Rotary Club members.
That's Rotary Club.
And we need to special mention a former member. He's not in the club right now, but Bob Baker has been a big help on both.
Bob, well, I started sponsoring a blood drive many years ago when Mr. Bill Asman passed away. Lord, it's been a long time ago. But Bob and Mr. Buddy Enoch, they're both great supporters, and they help with the blood drive. And of course, in my notes I had that we support the blood drive, and we get food donated and stuff. But Bob and Buddy is great.
Right, and Bob does that cooking for us, helps us with that.
Bob was in the Rotary for a while, was president one year, but he volunteers so much different things in the community.
Well, as a matter of fact, we did a food drive today over at the Ag Center. I was there, and in fact, that's why I'm dirty like I am. And Bob was there, and he was basically in charge of the food drive, and we're helping him out.
Yeah.
What's some other things that Rotary does? I know don't they involved in the Christmas?
Oh yeah. We do the angel tree at Walmart. Rotary members used to help me when we would shop there at with my office there, and so we started doing the angel tree, and Rotary members worked that, and once again Bob helped with that with the angel tree, and we work that through the with the help center, and then when we do the shopping for clothes for kids at Christmas, several Rotary members help shop and help support that. But there's so many other things. I mean, we had a Little League team for years and years, and we do the Boy State, Girl State. We do just Boy Scouts, and the Riley Leadership Program, which goes through local high schools, and then the Thanksgiving food boxes. That's something we've been doing for several years. And try to get food for Thanksgiving to some needy families, and we love to cater to older folks if we can find them. And but we donate to a lot of different things through the years, and so we the graduation
Project graduation.
Yeah, graduation, and then the adult education. You know, some of us are on the board, adult education, and we've donated money to different things in the community.
And been involved in the fair since day one.
Yes, and had a booth in the fair. And once again, that's another one of our fundraisers that you got to have money to help people in the county. And of course, with the COVID-19 thing, the club chose not to do that because of some of our older members and stuff. So we'll be looking maybe to do some more fundraisers or something else.
One thing too, when I was in college, I was in a club called Rotaract. In fact, that had a lot to do with me wanting to be in Rotary when I came back here, when I finally got to a point where I could. And we sponsor Interact Club at both Gordonsville and at Smith County High.
Yes.
And they're both very active.
They are, and they've been good to come and help with different functions, both pancake breakfast, the fair booth, and food booth at the fair, and different things. And you know, those kids, when school's in session, you know, they come to our breakfast meeting, which is every Tuesday at 6:45, and a lot of them attend and very welcome. And but it's good for the kids because they get to take trips and they get to meet Interact kids from other states and maybe other countries, maybe, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of good Rotary programs, and we won't get into international. We support several things internationally and in the district as well, but we won't get into those things. Well, Digger, thank you for coming by.
Appreciate you asking me, Billy.
I appreciate you kind of giving a Rotary history. When I was thinking about it, I couldn't think of a better person because you've been in it as long as I can remember.
Well, it's you know, it was started in 1935 here in Smith County when it was organized, and so this year's 85 years. That's a long run for a club to be going.
Yeah, it is, and I think it's still strong. I know there's been ups and downs in membership. It's been higher than it is now and been lower than it is now, but it's still a good club.
Of course, everybody knows the world's changing, things change, and so much more activities now that people have with their kids and grandkids and stuff, you know, having free time, but we've got some prospective new members coming in.
Yeah, and one thing that changed many years ago is we have several ladies that are members that are very active and very much appreciated. Yes. All right, well, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming by.
All right, thank you, Billy.
Hey guys, Chris Hicks with UT Extension here. Want to let you know that our office is open and available to serve you. We are open by appointment, trying to limit contact and people coming in and out of the office. But if you need us and you need to make an appointment, we are here to serve you. Just give us a call at 615-735-2900, and we'll be glad to set up a time that you can come by and get information about soil testing, forage testing, weed identification, all the things that you've typically done through the UT Extension office. We do have a couple of Zooms coming up. September 1st, we're going to do a weed control Zoom specifically about pastures and hay fields. The next day, on September 2nd, we'll have a lawn care Zoom, 12 tips for managing your lawn, and you'll find more information about that over the next couple of weeks on our Facebook page. But really what I wanted to do today is introduce my newest coworker. Miss Rachel Petty is our new administrative assistant, and we are super excited to have Rachel at the Extension office. So Rachel, I want to turn it over to you and let you introduce yourself and talk about your background and what you're looking forward to as far as working with UT Extension.
Yeah, so like Chris said, I'm Rachel Petty. I'm Smith County born and raised. I've lived here my whole life. Graduated from Gordonsville High School in 2014 and then went to Belmont University and got an English degree from there in 2018. And I'm just really excited to be a part of the UT Extension team and excited to start my career and help you guys. If you call on the phone, you'll talk to me. So I'm just excited to get started.
And we're excited, again, to have Rachel with us. So, like she said, she'll be a voice that you hear often if you call the Extension office, and a face you'll see as you come by and visit with us. Again, if we can be of assistance to you, give us a call, 735-2900. You can also check out our Facebook page at UT Extension Smith County.
Hey everybody, Katie Martin here with Smith County 4-H. I know this year has been a little bit different than normal, but we're excited for our youth who are headed back to school. Whether you're headed back in person, remote, or homeschool, 4-H has something for you. We have our in-school clubs that meet on a monthly basis, as well as a community club that meets in the evenings, and a homeschool club that meets every month as well. So figure out how you can best get involved by emailing me at kclark54@utk.edu. I would be happy to find what interests your 4th through 12th grader so we can get them involved in 4-H, learning great communication and life skills. If you have any questions about 4-H and any of the many programs we offer, feel free to give us a call at 615-735-2900.
Hey everyone, it's Mary Draper with the University of Tennessee Extension here in Smith County. Today I'd like to talk to you about storing fresh fruits and vegetables. You may ask why this matters. Well, 40% of all American edible food goes to waste or isn't consumed. And what's at the top of that list? You guessed it, fresh fruits and vegetables. So these helpful tips can help you save money as well as help with the ability to fight hunger. So the first tip, we want to start from the beginning. When we're at the grocery store, we want to get our dry goods first. And then we want to move to our produce and our cold goods. So we want to keep those produce and cold goods separate as well. And if you're shopping at the farmer's market, you want to be sure to go in the morning because the heat of the day can diminish the quality of those fresh produce. When you're storing your produce in the refrigerator, you want to make sure to store the fruits and vegetables separately. If you have a refrigerator crisper drawers, you want to keep them in separate drawers. And in essence, fruits like low humidity and vegetables like high humidity. There are some produce that can be stored outside of the refrigerator in the pantry, such as potatoes and onions. When you're storing those in the pantry, you do want to make sure to keep them separate because onions can leach a gas that can diminish the quality of the potatoes faster. You also want to keep bananas on your countertop, but you want to keep them away from other produce as well because it leaches the gas as well. When you're washing your produce, generally you want to wash that produce right before you eat it, and it is recommended that you just use water. Now, during this COVID pandemic, it might be seen on different sites that you need to use some kind of commercial cleaner or detergent, but that's not recommended. You just need to use running water, and generally you want to make that water as close to the temperature of the produce as possible. Now, how long do you want to store those fruits and vegetables? So for this, the USDA has developed Food Keeper. You can get the app on your phone, or you can just Google Food Keeper and it comes up with a complete list of storage guides for those produce. So some produce, such as apples, potatoes, onions, can store longer than, say, berries. So it's always a good idea to look at that for a resource guide. If you have any questions about how to store produce or how to preserve produce, be sure to contact the Extension office at 615-735-2900.